All right, well, I think I've cracked all the jokes that I can muster, and we are about 4 or 5 minutes in. Mitchell did like post a little bit of a kind of a agenda here, but when the teacher's out, like you just do whatever you want to do, right? So, but I think Oliver Mitchell, the things he listed, in case you guys didn't see it, was he wanted an update on the 921 release candidate, which would be Oliver. And then we're going to have a demo of the proposed structured content, liquid content functionality, the UI portion, and then a review of the code structure, which I think Ash and Tomas were going to like do demos. So does that sound like a good agenda for everybody?
Yeah, it's mostly Tomas.
Okay. All right. Well, so Oliver, I guess we'll turn it over to you. And if you want to share your screen, go ahead. And we are recording, so I guess let the fun begin.
Yeah, I don't think, I mean, I can share my screen anyway. Why not? I got a couple windows open anyway here. All right, hopefully that's just Chrome. Do you guys see the screen of,
Yes.
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 All right,
So Oliver, I think you should tell everybody what we're looking at as far as like where it resides and like the .NET Foundation, all that stuff. Awesome.
Yep. So for the last 2 weeks, myself and Andrew and Brian Dukes a little bit the last few days have been working on our CI tasks to run unit testing on code commit, and then in addition, the packaging scripts that end up generating the install, upgrade, and source files for individual releases. The end goal is to provide an install and an upgrade zip for each pull request that comes in to kind of help everyone review and test it without having to jump through so many hoops that it is right now to get a good build. So what we're looking at right now is the .NET Foundation Visual Studio build server, basically. It's running all of our unit tests. There's a couple integration tests that are in the wrong spot right now, and that's the 6 failures. So we're gonna look at probably disabling those for the time being, and then during the next release, work on getting all of the integration tests running as well. In here, under download artifacts, you can download, it basically gives you a single zip right now. But this zip contains the install and the upgrade file for the latest version of DNN. The issue that I've been running into, I've been trying to get I've been kind of kicking the tires, actually doing full installs to make sure that we have a fully valid package. And everything in the package, when you compare it against 920, is almost identical. You know, there are changes in version numbers, which are expected, but everything's built, everything's there. I found a bug in the persona bar. The process for building the persona bar is a lot more complex than traditional .NET Nuke extensions. So I've been trying to get rid of all the manual steps that are required to build and generate a valid install package for the persona bar. The persona bar uses a package manager called Yarn. So here's right now 2 pull requests that I've submitted that basically add the manual Yarn step that was running, that you'd have to run at the command line, or the DNN internal build server was running manually. It was something that wasn't really like documented or easily achievable to get an install package. So after figuring that out with the help of everybody, the package looks good, but now the issue that I'm having when I install it is the DNN installer is skipping the persona bar component in the DNN manifest files. So the extensions get installed, the files get extracted, but what's not running at the moment is the individual tables for the persona bar. They're not getting fully populated with all of the details of each persona bar extension. So when everything looks on the surface like it's installed and working, but as soon as you click manage and extensions, you get a blank white page. Probably about 25% of the extensions in the persona bar load, and the other 75% don't. So that's kind of the roadblock where I'm at right now with generating our 921 release candidate. I believe from all the file comparisons that I've done and code review that I've done, generating the package is, as soon as these pull requests, if we were to merge these into the main repository now and then switch Visual Studio team services over to use the official branch instead of the branch that I'm working on, we would get a generated package that is, on the surface, looks identical to the 920 package. The issue that I'm dealing with the persona bar, I'm not 100% sure what's causing it and what the fix will be. I'm about at the limit in hours that I can put into it. So I think my recommendation to the group is we get these few pull requests reviewed and merged. If there's any changes that need to be done to them, I'd be happy to do them, as long as it's not another, couple day process. And then from there, I'm kind of hoping that between people in this group and even the ESW testers that are working on validating the build, I guess from your own internal build at the moment, if we can switch that over to be using the VSTS build, and work on identifying what part of either the packaging process or the install order, or maybe it's a side effect from one of the pull requests that we processed. But there's definitely some issue going on here.
Like who in this, you've been collaborating with Andrew, right?
Andrew a bit. I've been more collaborating with Tomas because he knows how Jenkins is set up currently. I've been talking with Ash and George. I've talked to you a little bit because you've got persona bar experience. I've been talking to Brian because he does as well.
Right, because I just wanted to underline to the whole group as well that like this is incredibly important that this work gets done, because we need moving forward, we need to make sure that this stuff is now like working outside of the walls of DNN Corp correctly, right? That's basically the challenge that we're facing. As far as you know, there are no more dependencies on anything internal to DNN Corp.
Not that I know of. I think everything is included in the 3 pull requests between the platform repository, the persona bar library, and the persona bar extensions repositories.
All right. So I don't have any experience with continuous integration or any of the tools that you mentioned. Yarn a little bit, but and React a bit more. So I'm not sure if I'm the prime candidate to review. I don't mind putting hours into it, but if someone in this group says, "Oh, hang on, I have a little bit more experience in this," then it would really help us out if we can get this fixed quickly.
Well, I think all of those issues are solved because the package that is generating, when I compare it to the 920 package, everything's where it should be. No files are missing. The files that should be different are different. I think the issue right now is it's an internal issue with the DNN installer. The way, let me see if I can pull this up quick.
At DNN Connect, there was one guy from ICAT pretty much bragging about experience with continuous integration and TFS Visual Studio.
So, guys,
Remember who I mean, Peter?
Yeah, the guy that likes to brag a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, him. Yeah, I know.
so I just want to reiterate.
That's no offense, but if he has some expertise.
Yeah. Exactly.
So guys, I just want to reiterate what Oliver said real quick. So the VSTS and the CI stuff, it's not really the problem here. The problem is with some of the build scripts that are DNN specific. So if you are familiar with building the persona bar locally or have worked at Corp and understand how the Jenkins build did it, that's what we're looking for.
Right.
As far as the technology that we're using to run the CI build with Visual Studio Team Services, that's not really the problem here.
I understand.
Okay,
So
thanks.
the
Thanks for clearing that
files
up.
that I just opened up, hopefully you guys all see my screen now. Sorry, computer's running slow, but so here is the installer file here. When DNN's running when you install a module, it's parsing the DNN file, it's checking for different components. These are all the known types that are, part of the core system. My first heart attack I had was we have this case called persona bar menu, and that string is not in here at all. But then upon looking after I recovered from my heart attack, I noticed the default case is going out and looking at a list entry called installer, and then it's loading that if anything's found that matches it. So digging deeper into that, when the persona bar library is installed, it's setting up on line 614 here a reflection call to the persona bar menu installer class in the UI assembly for the persona bar.
So Oliver and Thomas, I think so internally the DNN Corp builds are working, right? And they're off the same source code, right, Thomas? I've not tested 91 in a long time.
Yeah, builds that come off Jenkins are fully functional. So, I know this is overly complex and it may be a little bit late now to get this done if we want to release in just over a week, say 2 weeks from now.
So my personal opinion is cleaning up the mess of being able to get a workable install package locally for what is the entire platform. I think that is more important than getting 921 out the door in a week and a half.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. That's fine. I know, I'm just saying that there have been some deadlines decided 2 weeks ago, or whenever it was. But if public built pipeline trumps that, that's just fine. I was just concerned that if we want to push this and release at the same time, that would be hard.
It would be nice to have some kind of an indication of what it would take to get this to work.
So my gut right now feeling is because this script is added at module install time, I think it's a timing issue of the app not fully recycling and cache getting cleared and loading this installer type.
Now, I guess my question is, can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. My question is, Thomas, do we still publish the nightly build through Jenkins to the blob storage? There was a...
I don't think so.
it should be there, right? If you search like DNN nightly builds on your browser, it will take you to a place where all the builds get uploaded. I don't know if I mean, that's how it used to be. And then what I'm getting is that you could download that and just compare with your build to see which files are different for each or one of the modules. I'm sure there's something different.
Yes, I mean that's the thing is like I've already done that comparison, and
So you have access to 921 build?
no, but not with 921, with 920. And
Yeah, I don't know if
Persona
something
bar,
has
it
changed.
hasn't changed since Persona bar was released.
Well, it wouldn't have changed in the structure of how installers are packaged and all that. So on the base, it should be the same. That's true.
I mean, if you can send me the zip, I'd be happy to do a compare. I doubt that's the issue. I think the issue is something bigger here that either we stumbled on inadvertently, and it's just linked to moving to VSTS.
It might make sense to send him a link to the zip file, Thomas, because I don't know if it's being uploaded or not. That way, it will save him some time.
But I only have, I mean, I really don't, after this meeting, I really don't have, I really need to switch over to some other tasks, but
Okay.
I'm willing to put like a couple more hours in this today before I have to switch to something else.
So Ash, Tomas, to respect Oliver's time that he's put into this and what he's got left, could we send you guys the current zips that are generated and you guys do a compare for us and let us know if you see anything wrong?
I won't be able to do that, Andrew. I don't have cycles to go down to that level. I don't know, Tomas, if you have.
But yeah, I mean, on the engineering side, I think if not myself, I don't know about, but someone else from the team definitely should be able to look into it.
So
Not sure.
yeah, I'll let you decide how before you commit as to who will do that. You know, if you know someone, because the way the resourcing works is quite different now. So if you want to help him out, go ahead and do that. But make sure that when you're making a commitment, I think that you're able to actually commit to it.
I mean, I think the best option would be to go ahead with merging the changes and the addition of this cake build script. So the VSTS config is pointing to the live branch, and then any issues that are found, as soon as they're committed in, there'll be a new build available. It'll post to the blob storage. It won't update on the website yet, but it'll be accessible for everybody through the Foundation account. And we just work through figuring out what issues are left and making sure everything compiles and is usable locally and on the build server.
Yeah, so I guess you're going to have to find someone who can process your pull request, right? I think that's where. Who's your buddy here? Is it Andrew?
Well, I mean, between Peter, Mitch, Tomas, you know, there's enough people on this call where we can review it and get it in there.
Yeah.
I guess it just matters what direction we want to go with this. Like, if
My suggestion, Oliver, is that I know you're working on a branch. Why don't you continue to work on the branch and continue to use the VSTS on that branch so that it doesn't affect development or any other pipeline. And whenever this is ready, then you do the merge and through a pull request. Right? You know, you have commit rights, I guess, to do a branch.
yeah, but I mean, like the test that I'm working on is done. Generating the packages, it's done. The packages appear when doing a comparison to be exactly how they need to be to do a package. This other issue is it's something else. It's a new issue.
So it's not installing, or it's incorrectly installing,
It's
right?
installing. You can log in. The persona bar comes up. You click users in the persona bar. It works. You click roles in the persona bar. It doesn't. Like the way the persona bar is set up and configured is just way too overly complex. I don't know all the inner workings of it. The way that it's tied into the installer is, you know, not really the correct way to do it with a reflection call. You know, these are issues that don't revolve around getting the packages up on the public build server.
I can spend a few minutes with you after this call.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
can show me.
no problem. So yeah, that's where we are with 921 and the build server. If we want
I
to.
will feel free to reach out to me as well over Skype if you need to review stuff and get it merged.
Yeah, no, I'll definitely send you the links. You can start putting your comments in there. Any extra set of eyes would help.
Right.
And this doesn't change any all the old build tasks still work. You can still run the original bat file. It shouldn't affect any other pipeline. The only thing this new cake build script does is fetch everything from the 5 repositories that make up the platform and compile it all locally and give you installable extensions locally. So I've got no concern of it in affecting anything else. Because if you don't call the new script, it's not gonna package in the new way.
Okay. Do you want to move on to the next topic?
Just want to add, if you need help, I'm not very familiar with that. If you need help when the issues are resolved and documenting it or making a video of, how to actually clone and make a pull request and do something clean, I can offer time.
Awesome. No, that's super helpful. That's definitely what we're trying to get towards.
I'm gonna need help because I'm not able to do it even myself, but
yeah, no,
I
it's
can make a nice documentation to get out there.
Yeah, perfect. I would love to do that.
I have time.
Awesome. All right, so if that's it for the 921 release candidate update, I guess, Tomas, are you ready to take control here on the liquid content?
Yeah, sure.
Before we
And,
do that, it looks like we have JR here for the first time. Want to welcome him?
If you noticed, he tried to dodge the camera when it initially turned on. He wasn't ready for it, but I caught him.
Put on a shirt.
Yeah. So welcome, Mr. Managed / Deluxe. Yeah, so anybody who's seen the partner program directory, the showcase websites, and the updated DNN MVP directory, we built all of those in liquid content just as examples. So Tomas, if you're ready.
I'm ready. Right, there I have a evoke engage instance. I sometimes toy with. So has any one of you actually been using evoke? Is anyone familiar with liquid content? All right, that's good. So even if I say something wrong, it will just be Ash to point it out. So yes, with evoke, so content and engage, we get an additional menu on the persona bar, and by default, it comes with 4 sections. By default, opens content types. That's where you would typically start. Content types are the definition of the content you want to create. For every instance that's registering with the service, we create those 4 by default. I think Ash will correct me. This is something that would have been removed in the future. Currently, they are created and they cannot be deleted, but at least that should have been the case. I'm not trying to click this.
Yeah, no, we don't delete it. Yeah, you should be able to delete it going forward. Yeah.
And then, so you can, but most people just create their own, and with using a very nice designer. So this is all created in React. So then we can create a content type, so the structure, but it's not just the structure as in what we want to put in, but also at the same time, this main white section is a visual designer for the form. let's call this one an event. We can put some of those fields on what we call canvas. So the main area is a canvas. And each field comes with a set of settings, so they can have different appearance or behavior as to what input they allow. Some requirements on validation on, for example, this is text, so it can be restricted to a certain length. Different rules applies to different kinds of why isn't this clicking? Let's just call it event title or whatever. I'm going to go through all of those. There's a set of input types, input fields that we can put on the form. I guess just interrupt me whenever there's something that you want to.
Well, it seems obvious. I was just wondering what's reference object.
So reference object is, I never did really like that name. So reference object is reference between two content types, or like also. Oh no, I don't think it's possible to link like cycle with the same, or maybe I'm wrong here. So you can have like person. Let's just do it. We can have a reference field. Let's say that's a multiple choice reference to person. So these would be participants in the case.
Okay, so the data structure would not need to be flat. You could reference other content types.
You can reference other content types.
Yeah,
Awesome.
but that structure is limited. So it's not like a full graph that you can do whatever you want, but you can have that form of referencing between the types.
Yeah, I don't know the depth, how many levels you can go down. We have to go back and double check that, but yeah.
And from a UI UX perspective, you can drag those things. Like if you don't want them on each line, you can just grab the corner and move it, and have 2 columns.
Yes, we can have up to 4 columns. And then also they don't have to be equal. So each row can have one row can be a full width, and then you can have gaps, all sorts of things. So it's a flexible grid.
It's very user-friendly. If you want to do something more advanced, is there a template file you can edit in HTML?
No. This is only the visual editor. So again, but there is no template to that.
Yeah,
you can resize them.
Yeah, but having said that, there are APIs. So all of these structure is JSON structure, and they are stored as JSON in the document DB today. And there are APIs to do pretty much all of these. So you can construct a JSON structure via API, and you can call that API. Well, you can structure an object, call the API to create that object, and it does that. There is no import. If you're asking whether there is an import and export, I have to go back and double check. Whether you can do one item, there is another aspect of this. So we're a little bit getting ahead of ourselves. So this is where we're doing the model. You're defining a model of your data type. It's called content type. And then you start creating the content, number 2. And number 3 is you start to show that using visualizers, and they're import and export at different levels. So
going down into the details of how this is implemented, I personally think that this probably, it's a nice experience. Maybe Safari works probably better on Chrome, or maybe not. But then this is just the backend admin experience for content managers, or if you like. And this never goes beyond persona bar.
Okay.
But it's a significant piece of code with all the drag and drop, and then positioning that. Okay, let's now go into content items. So actually, let's create an event, or let's create a person first.
Yeah, my question about templates was more on the visualizer side of things.
Yes,
yeah,
so
that's heavily templatable. Yeah.
Awesome.
So from the perspective of so the person comes with the predefined. Okay, maybe that's if I put it here, it populates automatically on the So we can set up fields to automatically feed into the name of the item. So let's say opt-in setting. Let's just create myself here. I think that's enough. So that's the layout as created on the canvas. But it doesn't really matter. It could have been just a flat list, just one row per field, and would have worked, or some kind of fluid but automatic layout. And if I went to the connect, right? But let's just pretend that I did. So you see, I didn't do the connection here, so I have to put in the name separately. Those two are not by default connected in any way. And of course, we can do tagging, which will be important when we go discussing the future of what we have here, because those tags are something else from vocabulary at this point. So that's one part of how liquid content would change. And there's SEO. You can define some more keywords, stuff is just shared and the same for any content type.
Are there per item permissions?
No. There
Per
are
content type?
No, there aren't even per content type permissions.
Okay.
The permissions thing is not available. It's available at a module level.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's a bit different kind of functionality that would create. So on this side now, there's no such control. Right. And so what you were asking about the templates, those are called the visualizers. So again, for the default types, or maybe this is just for the content block. So just say unstructured a piece of text, basically. We create some default to showcase the visualizers. We can just open any one of them to see how they are built. So a visualizer is used to visualize a certain type. So when we go in a minute, create a new content type, you first have to choose the type. Well, there's a name, but that's just cosmetic. And then the important bit is the editor. So a visualizer, most important are the templates. So of course, we have the main body, so that we call just a template, header and footer. Right. So each content item, when visualized, will render those three sections, which can be any HTML, and it uses a liquid syntax. So anyone familiar with GitHub Pages or Jekyll, so let's say static page generator, and that syntax is a .NET port, sort of like Mustache, but also comes with Angular-like filter syntax. No. I don't think I can edit those, so I have to open a new one. A visualizer can have styles attached, and this one doesn't, and we can have a script. So now when I go and create a new visualizer for the type event, by default, it just iterates all the fields, all the contents of a item. And the editor also comes with auto suggestions. So now when I press Control Space, gives us autocomplete of what we have on the item. So the slug description, the tags coming from the other tab I showed you, and also the actual fields that we define. So the title, participants, and it gives you some hints on what it is. So the participants, that will be a person. Actually, there will be multiple persons, but okay. So it actually generates a listing of those participants.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, well, let's just leave it at the defaults.
Yeah, so to recap, we defined the content type, we generated some content items, and then now you're trying to visualize it, and then you have options to select those fields that you defined, and whether you want to show that as a table, like a repeater, a list view, or you want to show one item at a time. All of those options are there. It's all no back-end coding. It's all based on the UI here, but you need to know what you're doing.
Right. Not sure what happened with the loop there. I guess something wrong with the parser for the syntax. We'll have to figure this out later. And
by the way, this all right now as it stands, this whole UI is rendered from the microservice. So the UI is a bundled JavaScript that gets downloaded on the persona bar, and that gets activated. So if we need to do a bug fix today, we can push a code on microservice and it will get reflected here when you refresh it.
yeah, that's an important point. So unlike the other persona bar extensions, which come with the installer, come with the JavaScript portion bundled, all of that UI is actually loaded on the fly from Azure. So this allows us to easily deploy smaller fixes to end users, and it has been taking great care to implement so that, correct me if I'm wrong, all of these features came with 8.5, right? Or maybe earlier, when was, I'm sure. And so any user using using Libby content, starting from 8.5 up to the latest versions, will have received all those updates without anything. I mean, there's also an installable part required. So sometimes it's not as simple, but smaller fixes we can push without anyone noticing. And Ashley was saying that this can be manipulated over an API. So administrators can create API keys. The keys are quite limited at this point. Currently, we only do read-write for content items and content types.
Yeah, so you can define your content type. You can download those. You can edit them.
So not the visualizers. Which,
not the visualizers. So visualizers are done through an import. So click on that. So there is a import, right? So if you have, you can export
here,
from one system to the other.
Here we have export and we can import. It will create all. Yeah, but not over the API at this point. We could have it. We could add it. This is all using scope permission, but it's actually using all of scopes. So this could be extended to expose more of the API for the API keys to use by third-party software. Okay, so that's for the administrative part. Now let's create a new page. Now when we go into
so the idea is that you want to create an Excel sheet of your content first. That's a different mindset. You don't create page or anything. You figure out what content you want to have, and then you choose where you want to show that. That's a whole different mindset. It still fits into the DNN platform that there is a module and there's a page and there are permissions and whatnot, but it requires some planning, upfront planning. What content type do you want to do? So it requires modeling, right? So it's a slightly different mindset.
Yeah, well, you can have it both ways here. So let's just go into the module. The module gives you a number of possibilities of how the visualizers are actually placed on pages and how it plays with DNN. Okay. So I created an event page, and I can put the visualizer module in one of the what were they called? Containers. Visualizer. No, I mean, yeah, one of the slots.
Content panes.
Content
pane. And so visualizer comes with the module gives you possibility to use 4 different types. So there is a content item visualizer, which doesn't really matter what we called it before. There's a content item visualizer. and every time, whichever one you choose, you then choose the actual content type that you want to visualize. So let's select the event. We select the visualizer that we just created, so the templates. And finally, the content item type of visualizer is just a pre-selected list of items. So we can choose what we want presented. We can use the module to directly create new items. So you don't even have to go to the persona bar to create actual content. And here we can, when click apply, it will just first call the service to render that curly bracket liquid template into actual piece of HTML and put it in the page. There. Well, of course, I didn't put any styles in it. I didn't put any page breaks. It's just same thing and connect. But this is it. This can be put on any page. It doesn't really do anything to the page itself. So if you have existing pages, you can add some additional content, like on the sidebar or whatever. More interesting are the other types. Let's go back to selecting the visual as a type. There is list, detail, list, and detail. So list is quite simple as well. As the name suggests, it will just present, but instead of pre-selected content items, it will present a list. It has some additional settings. We can do paging, or we can just have it present 10 content items, period. Sorting, they can be filtered by tags. And so the effect will be pretty similar in this case to the content item visualizer. Did I select list or list detail? Select the list. And finally, the detail. What did I click? I think I clicked outside. Yeah, I don't know what's happening now. Let's just remove it and put it on the page again. Oh, I know. Oh no. Of course, this is all correct, and it actually does tell me in red lettering. So this is where what I showed you. Okay, let's publish the page. When I showed you the SEO tab on a content item, one of the input fields was called slug. And so a content page itself, I mean, a page with a detail visualizer doesn't do much in itself. But now let's see what we have. By default, it's just hyphenated name of the content item. So we have the DNN connect item, and the slug generated is just lowercase DNN-connect. And now a content, a page with a detail visualizer works by us adding, it hooks up to the routing mechanism, the slug added on as the last segment of the URL will look up a particular item in the liquid content and render using the selected visualizer. So this way we create a one page that can present any event. And then similarly, finally, there is the list detail visualizer, which can easily create lists linked to the detail pages. So just like a combination of the plain list and the detail page, so to speak. Ash, any suggestions of what I may have missed or what's important for the first demo here?
No, I think this is pretty good. I think we should wait for some questions maybe, and then we can go into more details. Do people have any questions? I know we did not really go too deep, but the whole idea was to give you an idea of what a liquid content is. I mean, to summarize, you have to define a content type, and then you add content, and then you decide how you want to present that content, whether you want to present a list view or a single content item. You can do all of that.
It's kind of a modern form and list.
Yeah, exactly. It's there are variations of this concept in the DNN ecosystem, right? Sexy content, open content, formal list, and they all have this kind of same concept.
Yeah, I'm actually planning one day maybe to have a migration path from content that was in old form and list modules to migrate it to liquid content, so they can get rid of the form and list module.
Right.
So that's coming to the platform, liquid content?
That's what we're talking about.
Okay.
Well, so that's a very broad subject. First of all, like we've been saying, this has all been deployed solely on Azure. There's a number of services. There's a largish diagram that's in the document that Ash mentioned on the other meeting. And we've been analyzing all that we have in liquid content and related services, and how it fits into the ecosystem. And so there's a number of services. We just call them microservices. They're all independent. So there's liquid content that does the rendering and the API that manages the items. That is a languages service, which is like a bridge between languages in an evoke instance, or like a platform instance, and languages that you can have translated items, but these are a bit of separate currently. Well, there's a completely separate service called Form Builder. So where content items are just for the administrator, the content manager to create, and for the visualizer to present on pages. Forms Builder is similar, but for example, for creating polls or registration forms, where you can gather responses from your users. And there's also and so it comes with a similar visual designer, but instead of putting the forms in persona bar, the actual visualizer for forms will be presenting those forms on pages. And so there's also, while that's loading, that's the form builder. There's a form builder liquid content connector, so that whenever a form is filled in, it can feed into the content. But of course, forms will remain an evoke feature.
So in the chat, they're asking if there's access to this diagram anywhere. And also, I just want to be mindful, we're like 7 minutes away from the hour. So I don't know, if you wanted to look into code or if this is it. I'm just giving an update.
Ash, the question about the diagram, the document that it comes from was meant to be shared, but there haven't been an update as far as I know from the authors, right? So I'm not sure. The diagram itself, I suppose we can share the link.
Oh, yeah, sure. There's nothing proprietary here. That's all.
That's probably, well, the lucid chart. I mean, the diagram itself, I think it's private and has to be shared explicitly, but maybe I can export it and yeah, I
You
can
can PDF and share it in the channel. That's fine. There's nothing.
yeah, let me do it right after. I'll just put it on
the
our
Slack
Slack.
channel. Yeah, you can put that. Yeah. So guys, what we've done was just touch on the surface what liquid content is at a very high level.
So the problems will come when we try moving those pieces into actual platform. So languages will have to be replaced with using the languages subsystem of platform. Authorization has to be redone or like hard to tell. That currently lives as a separate service implemented with Microsoft Identity Server. So that's a separate deployment on Azure because it serves for liquid content and form builder. This has to be changed. Then there's analytics, which I currently we think will remain as a cloud. The only thing.
Yeah. So one thing I want to caution here is that I think so. What we're showing right now is the liquid content as it exists in the commercial product, and when we port it, the plan is to not bring everything. Andy's vision is to bring the data architecture. And now what it doesn't make sense to just move the API or the data structure. So the plan is to move the data structure, the APIs and the UI, the visualizers. But there will be some features on the Evoke side, for example, analytics, and there are like multi-channel publishing. There is no permission right now. Whoever builds it, if community wants to build it, then that's great. There is no workflow. There is versioning. Versioning has typically been an Evoke feature. That's a differentiation for us. So we also need to survive, and so that will be on Evoke. The localization, I think it will be probably in the platform because localization has traditionally been available in the platform.
But it comes with additional caveat. I mean, additional difficulties in that localization currently is that separate service. It will have to be reintegrated with platform in a different way. Tags does not use vocabulary, so that's something that we've been planning to actually use vocabulary. Same goes for workflows, which currently there actually is no workflow integration. If you see on actual content items, there is a simple save draft and save buttons, but it does not use the workflow that lives in Evoke. So that's some parts are missing or will have to be reintegrated with what we have in Evoke. Some have to be completely replaced with something else. And yeah, it is a difficult task. I saw Matt's comment. I mean, it's not just between me and you guys because that's going public. But initially, my initial thought was to actually keep the UI, which is easy to port. I mean, it's there already. Keep the API surface, but maybe slim liquid content itself down a little bit rather than trying to pull it all in. Hard to tell. It's borderline of a rewrite, but comparing to the effort required to turn microservices from an Azure ecosystem into on-premise, I'm still kind of unsure which is a bigger effort and which would be more difficult. On one hand, there's a lot of code. We won't have time for code today. And on the other hand, maybe we could decide that we can have less features and less effort on the rewrite itself. So
I got a couple questions for Ash on this, if I can get a second.
Sure.
So what's the plan with Evoke then? Is the plan with Evoke to have liquid content still be microservice, or is the plan to have it be local like the transition for platform?
Yeah, as a business on Evoke, we want to get out of the microservice. It doesn't make sense to have 3% or 5% of our feature on microservice or 95% on on-premise. So we would migrate customers off microservice onto the local on-premise as and when they're ready. The service will run till the last person is on the system, or
Okay.
we give them a timeline.
Okay, now currently for the Evoke customers that, and I haven't used Evoke, so I don't really know, but currently for the Evoke customers that are using Liquid Content with the microservice, is that microservice hosted through a DNN account, or is that hosted based off each Evoke client?
It's hosted, it's a multi-tenant single instance service, so it's hosted, it's as a general purpose service, one instance for every Evoke customer, and they're partitioned by security.
Okay, so there's one instance of Liquid Content in Azure for each custom, for each.
For every customer, there is just one instance. It's a
Gotcha.
service. It's a SaaS service, right?
And is that included in their DNN, in their Evoke license, or is that an additional Azure fee that that client has to sign up for?
Well, so it is included in Evoke Content and Evoke Engage because the price of those are more. So it's like $8,000 the Evoke Content starts.
Gotcha.
So it's included in that, but there is a fair use policy. You can't dump like billions of objects here, and then we rake up the fees. But we pay, the DNN Corp pays for the Azure hosting.
DNN Corp offers that as part of the service, and the customer doesn't have to worry about it. And I promise I'm going somewhere with this. I do promise that. So my next question is, so I've dabbled a little bit in Azure scaffolding, and I think having Liquid Content as in the local instance is a great idea, but getting rid of the microservice implementation and just focusing on a local instance may not be, I think having both might be a really cool idea. And then having in platform a wizard where you could connect to your Azure account, and then you'd be able to press a button and it would run the scaffolding for you to your Azure account to create the necessary resources to still do everything that Liquid Content does that it currently does today. And you can automate all of that with Azure PowerShell right now. And I wasn't sure if anyone at Corp or ESW or in this group has thought of doing something like that, so you could still leverage all the features there with minimal effort if you wanted to use it as a microservice. And saying that, I don't think we should abandon the other approach, but I think having the two options, it might be an idea to discuss.
Yeah, so my vision has always been, this is a headless CMS sort of stuff, right? It has, you can run without DNN per se.
Right.
Yeah, so that's how we want to keep it separated, but it's going to have a first class integration with DNN, and then you want to be able to host it outside of DNN as well. There's going to be some authentication and authorization, and that's how we would, when we get to it, we're going to have to write it in such a way that those are abstracted away. They can slide in your own authorization and authentication. So that's how we all have to get to a consensus as to how we build it. We haven't really started building it. We have high level requirement specs out. That's where you saw the diagram that this is our intent. We're not down there as to how we're going to build it, but certainly we've had so much investment keeping it outside and then putting it in so that, and you cannot ever take it out. That's not the right thing. I think you should be able to install it as part of DNN as an optional thing. I agree. I think Mitch and I we had a great conversation yesterday, 2 hour, Mitch, I and Clint, and going over all of these. So we agreed. I think we should wait for Mitch to come in and comment that it should be an optional, at least in 9.3, the next release. But later, we might make it a full required feature in a couple of releases down the road. But my view is that, yes, you should be able to take that piece of code and run it on Azure. And yeah, I mean, that's how you scale, right? Then you can have there's a horizontal scaling without the DNN overhead. DNN is heavy. If you can keep it in .NET Core, and then you have your content service fully scalable as much as you want, you're pumping your content to the content service, and DNN is just doing the content management part of it, the permissioning and whatnot. So that's the vision. To see how far we're able to do it, I mean, that's a different question. Did that answer your question, Andrew?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, I'm sorry for asking us at the end, but we could take this into the chat. And before we go, is liquid content going to be on GitHub for us to take a look in its current form?
Not in the current form. We are required by, when we have commercial offerings, so we're not, we cannot share source code for that. So when we move it to the first version, when we're ready to share, that's what we would do it.
Okay.
But not as of the
Okay.
currently how it works.
Cool. And that answers my question for now. I got some more things I'm going to drop in the chat because we're over time.
So do we want to try to put the code review to the next meeting? Is that good with everybody?
Yeah, it sounds like a great idea.
I think we should stick to our schedule. We're already 4 minutes out.
No, I'm saying the next meeting, as in next week.
The code review for liquid content?
Yeah.
Well, there's no code to show. We can go into the architecture a bit. Yeah, I think we can.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the notion was that Tomas was going to demo the front end, and then we'll talk.
We can go a little bit under the hood, right? We can go under the hood as to how a few things are.
Go ahead.
Thanks. So I was meaning to ask that maybe you have some questions already in the back of your heads. Otherwise, it's just hundreds of lines of code I will be showing. Doesn't make sense. I can come up with some hotspots or some important bits, but if you prepare a list, say by the end of the week on Sunday, and then I can have Monday to look through what you're interested in and prepare for that.
Yeah, and we won't be able to show the database and stuff like that, or customers' data, but we can certainly show what's on the local side.
Well, we can show the database on the QA or dev instances.
Yeah, possibly.
So my thing is, I mean, if it's going to come down to the platform and the community is to embrace it and hopefully enhance it over time, then the community this group needs to understand it, right? Because if nobody understands it, there's not going to be any ongoing enhancements. And so that's just what I mean. If I'm going to build my whole site in this thing, I want to ensure that the people who are running it, understand how to make it better going forward versus it getting abandoned. And I think everybody here probably shares that same kind of notion.
Yep.
So I mean, if we need to wait until you guys can show all the details or whatever, I'm just thinking the more insight this group can have, the better. But I know we're over, so I'll quit blabbing. Anybody got anything you want to say? Do we need to do the not recorded portion? What's everybody feeling like? Okay, I guess everybody's ready to go.
Well, I'm good for it. I had a couple questions regarding, we talked a little bit about it outside of here regarding copyright on the community modules and licenses and stuff. I don't know if that goes in the not recorded portion, if that goes for another time. It's up to you.
I think let's do the next time because I have to drop off too.
Okay. All
Okay.
right. Well, we'll just table that. And Ash, what he's talking about is in the Slack channel. If you want to read up on it, it's about the copyright and how we name things, stuff like that. But all right, appreciate everybody's time, and we will see y'all next week. I'll get this rendered and put up on the site. Thank you guys.
Thank you.